Hello and welcome to Crooked House Gaming. Here at Crooked House Gaming, we like to explore the gameplay of simulation games, usually through a series of Let's Plays. In this episode, we will continue to explore the gameplay of Democracy 4. Democracy 4 is a political sim that lets you choose the role of a world leader and govern a country. If this sounds like something you're interested in, be sure to hit that like button. And if you're new here, welcome, and be sure to hit that subscribe button so you won't miss any future episodes. Today's episode, we will be starting a new country. We were voted out as the Prime Minister of Australia. Last episode, we will be starting with Spain as our country. Kingdom of Spain's first democratic election took place in June of 1977 after the death of Francisco Franco in 1975, who had ruled Spain under dictatorship since 1939. In 1978, a new democratic constitution was promulgated and approved by referendum. Spain was declared a constitutional parliamentary monarchy with King Juan Carlos I as head of state and with universal suffrage. The statistics of Spain: the population is 46,754,778 as of 2020, according to UN data. The size of Spain is 505,990 kilometers. The religion of Spain is 68% Catholics, 2.6% other faiths, and 28% identify as atheists. Exports: machinery, motor vehicles, foodstuffs, pharmaceuticals, medicines, and other consumer goods. World leader: health. Organ donation: third highest number of UNESCO World Heritage Sites. Generating and exporting renewable energy. A member of European Union, United Nations, NATO, and OECD. National obsessions: long lunch breaks, football, healthy Mediterranean diet, and family. Let's begin our gameplay with Spain as our country. The game has suggested that we are the leader of the Progressive Fascist Party. I don't know very much about the fascist party, but we're going to change the color to yellow. We're in a three-party system, with our opposition party being the New Moderates and the Freedom Brigade. Let us begin our gameplay as Prime Minister of Spain. Congratulations on your election victory. Welcome to your new job as Prime Minister. The lives of all 46,754,000 citizens are now in your hands. As you will imagine, there are a number of situations and concerns that you will need to deal with as soon as possible, while keeping an eye on long-term improvement of our citizens' quality of life. Plus, do not forget that you face re-election in 4 years. You'll need to monitor the opinion polls and our party membership. Good luck. At the recent election, your party won with a majority of 10%. This will give you some political power to implement your policies. Let's begin our terms in office. We have 14 political capital to spend. We have organized crime. We have alcohol abuse. We have a rail strike. We have corporate exodus. We have an uncompetitive economy. And we have respiratory disease. Rail strike. Rail employees are not turning up to work. They are asking for greater investment in the rail network. Our rail system is currently paralyzed, which is causing total mayhem for business and huge resentment amongst commuters. Labor laws are basically the restriction on a worker's right to strike. Capitalists argue that such restrictions are vital to prevent key workers such as power station workers, policemen, and train drivers from holding the country to ransom. Trade unionists consider the right to strike to be fundamental and not open to negotiation. The popularity with voters is 72%, but the rail strike is shutting down our country. We are going to spend 12 political capital and reduce the labor laws to balance. We will apply the changes. We have 2 political capital to spend. Organized crime. Large organized gangs of serious criminals are now targeting our country. We do not have the resources to deal with them, and they are causing serious problems, including higher levels of street crime and violent crime, as well as supplying drugs and guns. Police drones, an unmanned aerial reconnaissance vehicle similar to remote control planes, which can be employed by the police forces. The eye in the sky is a useful way to keep track of mobs and rioters and allow for subtle yet effective surveillance. The police see it as a vital tool for modern crime fighting, but there are concerns that this is a step towards a Big Brother style surveillance society where everyone is tracked. This is 28% popular with the vote, but we have organized crime. We are going to spend 2 political capital, and we are going to apply the changes. We have 0 political capital to spend, and thus we are at the end of our first term of our first year as Prime Minister of Spain. Let's hit that button. We will now be entering our second term of our first year as Prime Minister of Spain. Let's see how we did. The GDP is up, unemployment is down. Allow foreign fighters to return. There's an urgent policy question that requires your immediate attention. Some of our religious citizens left our country to fight in a religious dangerous war overseas, a war that in many ways threatened our interests and security. That fighting is now ended and the fighters have expressed regret for their actions and a desire to return home. Block fighters from returning. When citizens leave this country to go fight alongside our enemies abroad, they lose any claim to citizenship and any right to live here. Under no circumstances should they be allowed back, not even to stand trial. It would be an insult to our soldiers and security services. Allow fighters to return. It's a difficult principle to defend, but we have to accept our citizens are our citizens, even when they commit crimes abroad, or in this case, take up arms against us. By all means, prosecute them for their actions, but we cannot deny their citizenship because we find it inconvenient. No, we are the Progressive Fascist Party. We are going to block our fighters from returning. The Liberals are unhappy at -8%. The Conservatives are happy at +11%. Situation imminent. Our data is showing that we have a potentially bad situation. Doctors strike on our hands if we do not act soon. Budget report. The government is currently running a budget deficit of 8.53 billion euro. We should take steps to reduce this. Polls report. Polls do not look good. Our last poll put us at 22% of the vote in an election. Cabinet report. The loyalty of your ministers can best be described as loyal. Their effectiveness is generally considered to be passable. Economic forecast. Good news. The global economy is doing well and this is having a positive effect on our GDP. We have 15 political capital to spend. Cryptocurrency taxation. More and more commerce is handled in cryptocurrencies to cover the cost of tax evasion and tie new currencies to fiscal system. Rules and taxation are required. An internet currency tax reduces income for everyone trading in cryptocurrencies, mostly self-employed and small companies. We're going to spend 8 political capital to increase this from 13% to 31%. We will apply the changes. We have 7 political capital to spend. Violent crime, a more worrying indicator than the overall crime level. This measures the frequency of violent crime such as murder, rape, and muggings. Violent crime is a worry for everyone in this country. Police force. Every government needs to employ a police force to ensure order is kept and laws are obeyed, but it is a matter of debate exactly how much should be spent on the police. Some favor a large force with police on every street corner. Others prefer a more low-key and tolerant approach. This is 100% popular with the vote. We need to lower our corruption. This will lower unemployment. This will address violent crime and crime in general, as well as alcohol abuse. We are going to spend 2 political capital to increase our police force. We will apply the changes. We have 5 political capital to spend. Adult education subsidies. Adult education subsidies are a way to encourage people to retrain and continue their education after they've joined the workforce. This includes evening classes and distance learning resources. These schemes help to raise the overall education level of the workforce. This is 50% popular with the vote. This will increase our productivity and our education. Right now, we have an uncompetitive economy. We are going to invest 2 political capital to increase this. We'll apply the changes. We have 3 political capital to spend. Alcohol tax. Medically, there is a clear case for the government to tax alcohol in order to discourage consumption because of its negative effects on health and possible links to social breakdown. On the other hand, those who drink socially see the government benefiting from such a tax as to be hypocritical. We're going to spend 3 political capital to increase this from 19% to 26%. We will apply the changes. We have 0 political capital to spend and thus we are at the end of our second term of our first year as Prime Minister of Spain. Let's hit that button. We will now be entering the 3rd term of our first year as Prime Minister of Spain. Let's see how we did. Health is down. Unemployment is down. Doctors strike. Doctors and other health workers are on strike protesting about government policy. It takes a lot for medical professionals to refuse to work, but the state of our healthcare provision and salaries of our healthcare workers has resulted in a national health strike. This has an immediate and devastating effect on those who use the health services regularly. Condemn far left dictator. There's an urgent policy question that requires your immediate attention. Although it may seem irreverent to our domestic policies, the extreme actions taken by a far left dictator has become such a news story that the media are expecting you to make a comment on whether you condemn their actions. The dictator has been rounding up opponents and there are reports of public executions and beatings in the street. Condemn the dictator. It would be shocking for us not to speak out when we are well aware of the horrors taking place in this country. We normally stay out of foreign internal politics, but we cannot stand by while innocent people are arrested and even killed. To stay silent shows lack of principles. Refuse to comment. Horrible though these events may appear on the surface, it is not our duty or our place to criticize the internal politics of other countries. We do not want other countries' leaders to start meddling in our own affairs. For all we know, the people being arrested are dangerous terrorists. We are going to select refuse to comment. The social socialists are happy at plus 5%, the liberals are unhappy at negative 9%, and the capitalists are unhappy at negative 5%. Situation imminent. Our data is showing that we have a potentially bad situation. Teacher strike on our hands if we do not act soon. We now have railroad strike, doctor strike, and teacher strike. Budget report. The government is currently running a budget deficit of 5.56 billion euro. We should take steps to reduce this. Polls report. Polls do not look good. Our last poll put us at 19% of the vote in an election. Cabinet report. The loyalty of your ministers can best be described as loyal. Their effectiveness is generally considered to be passable. Economic forecast. Good news. The global economy is doing well, and this is having a positive effect on our GDP. Security briefing. The Evangelical Alliance is expressing dismay at government policy. The Evangelical Alliance is a threat assessment of 3. CCTV cameras. CCTV cameras can be a great help in catching criminals, and cameras also deter crime. The installation costs are extremely high, and there's concerns about civil rights from people who don't like to feel that the government is constantly watching them. This is 28% popular with the vote. Right now it is in town centers. We are going to invest 3 political capital in this. This will lower crime and violent crime. This will also lower liberalism. We are going to apply changes. Intelligence services. Security services are an essential tool in the fight against organized crime and terrorism. Good, reliable intelligence can be difficult and expensive to obtain, and in many cases the methods employed can be unpopular with liberals and human rights advocates. This is 3% popular with the vote. We are going to invest 2 political capital to increase our sizable spy agency. We will apply the changes. Labor laws. Labor laws are basically the restriction on a worker's right to strike. Capitalists argue that such restrictions are vital to prevent key workers such as power station workers, policemen, and train drivers from holding the country ransom. Trade unionists consider the right to strike to be fundamental and not open to negotiation. The popularity with the vote is 72%. We are having a doctor strike and a rail strike right now, with the possibility of a teacher strike. We are going to spend 6 political capital to reduce labor laws. It will still be balanced. We will apply the changes. We have 3 political capital to spend. Toll roads. Toll roads charge motorists to use specific roads, normally major highways. This is a great example of directly applying market forces by only charging those who use a particular route for the construction and maintenance of that route. Motorists tend to see this as just another form of taxation, whereas commuters appreciate not being charged for roads they seldom use. This is 59% popular with the vote. We are going to use 3 political capital to increase this to high. We will apply the changes. We have 0 political capital to spend, and thus we are at the end of our 3rd term of our 1st year as Prime Minister of Spain. Let's hit that button. We will now be entering the 4th term of our 1st year as Prime Minister of Spain. Let's see how we did. Former spy poisoned. A former spy who was granted asylum in our country has been assassinated by their former handlers. The spy suddenly fell ill after a restaurant visit where enemy operatives slipped a radioactive chemical into their drink. Citizens are panicked over the potential of being exposed to poison in a public place, and patriots are aghast that such an operation could be executed on domestic soil. The patriots are unhappy at negative 14%. Everyone is unhappy at negative 10%. Situation imminent. Our data is showing that we have a potentially bad situation. Hospital overcrowding on our hands if we do not act soon. Budget report. There is a budget deficit of 5.77 billion euro. We need to reduce spending or raise taxes. Polls report. Your approval rating is disappointing. If we believe the polls, you will get just 14% of the vote. Election report. Our party, the Progressive Fascist Party, is getting more support. In the last quarter, 139,454 new people signed up to be members. Economic forecast. Good news. The global economy is doing well, and this is having a positive effect on our GDP. Cabinet report. The loyalty of your ministers can best be described as loyal. Their effectiveness is generally considered to be adequate. We have 14 political capital to spend. Cryptocurrency taxation. More and more commerce is handled in cryptocurrencies to cover the cost of tax evasion and tie new currencies to the fiscal system. Rules and taxation are required. An internet currency tax reduces the income of everyone trading in cryptocurrency, mostly self-employed and small companies. This is 52% popular with the vote. We are going to use 4 political capital to increase this from 31% to 38%. We will apply the changes. Labor laws. Labor laws are basically the restriction on the workers' right to strike. Capitalists argue that such restrictions are vital to prevent key workers such as power station workers, policemen, and train drivers from holding the country at ransom. Trade unionists consider the right to strike to be fundamental and not open to negotiation. This is 72% popular with the vote. We are addressing a doctor's strike. We are addressing a rail strike. We are going to spend 6 political capital to reduce this to balance. We will apply the changes. We have 4 political capital to spend. Alcohol tax. Medically, there is a clear case for the government to tax alcohol in order to discourage consumption because of its negative effects on health and its possible links to social breakdown. On the other hand, those who drink socially see the government benefiting from such a tax to be hypocritical. This is 0% popular with the vote. We do have an alcoholism problem on our hands, and we do need to raise money for the country. We are increasing this from 26% to 33%. We are using 3 political capital. We will apply the changes. We have 1 political capital to spend. Witness protection program. What good is catching a criminal if the witness to the crime disappears forever? Protecting these witnesses is of utmost importance for a working justice system, and the better it is, the more criminals get convicted and the more witnesses come forward if they see a crime. This is 50% popular with the vote. We need to address our organized and violent crimes. We are using 1 political capital to increase this. We will apply the changes. We have 0 political capital to spend, and thus we are at the end of our 4th term of our 1st year as Prime Minister of Spain, and thus we are at the end of this episode. Thank you so much for stopping by our Cricket House. If you like what you saw, be sure to give it a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button if you want to follow our future episodes. It really helps us out. Have a great week. See you soon.